Hi, I'm Tricia Morris at Club Scrap. This is the Mariachi Card Kit. It's so much fun. We're gonna have a great time. And I have my instructions printed out here and my entire kit, of which I'm gonna set aside everything except the paper. So that means the envelopes. And let's just slide all of these embellishments and ribbons to the side here. We'll work with those later. For now, let's put the paper in the order in which we plan to trim it. For trimming, I'm using my Fiskars guillotine trimmer. And for organizing, I'm using my accordion pocket file here. And if you don't happen to have this accordion pocket file, reach out to us. We can help you get started with making one for yourself. And in the meantime, maintain 4 piles, A, B, C, and D. And that'll help us stay organized with all the pieces we're about to create. This is the pile of paper. Let's hold it upright and we'll find the following colors. Let's start out with one sheet of the red, and you'll notice right away this red paper is very, very special. It has a gorgeous texture on that. And then we're gonna go with the green, just one of those, a blue, and then gold. And that pretty set of colors. Then we'll go back to the red again. So grab your second sheet of red and your other sheet of gold. Next, we'll trim green and blue. Then we'll go to the black. And now we've got 2 prints here. These are the all over prints with the guitars and roses and music. That's actual mariachi scores. We're gonna put both of those sheets plain side up. And next I want you to find the cut apart that has the little guitars on the edge. So that one will go face down, followed by the last sheet of paper included in the kit that's got the colorful border on the edge there. So face down with that, flip everything back over to where we began with that beautiful sheet of red paper. And before we can trim this, we're gonna have to find out what grain direction it is. And according to our instructions, the paper should dip or fall or bend easily from top to bottom when it's placed in the trimmer. So to find that dip, hold the paper by its edge. You're gonna notice it's a nice strong paper, but one side will bend more easily than the other. I can see it happening here. So I'm gonna place it into the trimmer in that direction. And then grab the green and do the same little test. So that's pretty stiff. This bends easily. Place it into the trimmer and stack it neatly together. We'll trim both sheets at the same time. Now, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, don't worry about it. Just trim one at a time and watch that repeatedly. So our first cut we'll make is at 11 3/4. And if you're new to the trimmer, just a few reminders to keep the paper flush at the top edge. Press firmly on that clear bar before you bring the blade down, and always make sure you're looking at inches, not centimeters. So again, that's 11 3/4. And then slide down to 7. Now when you're working with 2 sheets of paper, that step of moving the hand over to the bar is particularly critical. Now rotate the 7x12 and trim at 10. And this is going to give us 2 card bases. But what we'll do is set these aside to be scored in a little bit. And there's also this 2x7 strip that we created. We're going to trim that horizontally at 6 3/4. That's just taking a little piece off the end. And pocket this in C, pocket C. And we did create 2 little scraps. You can just get rid of those. They're pretty tiny. Now you have this long piece here. We're going to trim this one at 5 1/4. And then rotate the piece so it's now vertical and trim at 4. That gives you a piece for pocket A, and then 2 little unused scraps. You can put them in D for now if you'd like. Maybe you'll decide to use them later. Then this larger piece goes in pocket C. There actually were 2 thin strips. If you can save those as well. Sometimes I use them on the insides of my cards. I don't have a specific assignment for them. Now we need to repeat all of this with blue. So we're going to find, again, the grain direction, dipping from the top to the bottom of our trimmer. That's the way it should be wanting to fold in the future, because we will fold in that direction. And definitely with the gold as well, dipping top to bottom. Let's repeat all of those steps now. And our first cut was at 11 3/4. So again, stabilize, slide to 7, stabilize, rotate, and trim at 10. Set these 2 pieces aside to be scored. And let's cut the 2x7 horizontally at 6 3/4. All right, we're gonna place that in pocket C. And once again, we've made some little scraps. Those aren't too bad. And then we'll trim this piece at 5 1/4. I'm gonna have you rotate so it's now vertical and cut at 4. And then this goes in pocket A. We made a small scrap for pocket D, and then this larger panel C, plus 2 narrow strips for D. Next, we'll take the red and just make sure the grain now is running from left to right. It dips easily left to right. And we're going to trim the gold at the same time. So again, grain dipping easily left to right. We'll cut at 11 and 6 3/4. Rotate and trim this piece horizontally at 11 and 5 1/2. These two pieces get set aside to be scored. And this little end cut here goes in pocket D. And now this piece, let's trim it at 7 1/2 and 3 3/4. These two pieces are going to become flaps on card set A and need to be scored, so set those aside. And now we have this other piece that is 4 1/2 by 4 1/4. So place it vertically into the trimmer and cut at 3 1/4. And that'll go in pocket C. These last two scraps go in pocket D for didn't quite use it. We're already moving on to page 2. The green and the blue indicate that the score or the grain needs to dip easily top to bottom. I always like to compare because sometimes all papers behave a little differently. So I always check, even if I think I have it, I compare. Now our first cut on the green and blue, if you're working at the same time, will be at 9 and then 4 1/2. Rotate, cut at 10 3/4 and 8 1/2. These two pieces are scored, so I'll set them aside. And then this rectangle, pocket B, and then this little strip, D. And then we're going to repeat that again, so we'll be at 10 3/4 and 8 1/2. Set aside to be scored. Pocket B and pocket D. This last piece we'll trim at 7 and 3 1/2. You just made a total of 4 pieces all the same. Those go in A. And then this larger piece is actually a scrap for pocket D. Now we're moving on to this black shade, and I'm sorry to tell you that there's going to be kind of a weird cut. Just really one, okay? It's going to be at 11 and 7/8. So here is 11 3/4. This is 12. So 11 and 7/8 is halfway between. So that mid-size mark right there between these two columns is 11 and 7/8. The grain direction doesn't matter. And we're taking off, and I'll just show you. This is 1/8 of an inch of paper, okay? We'll put that in D while we're at it just to get it out of the way. All right, that was the hardest cut. Now next we go to 8 1/4. That wasn't so bad. And then 6 1/2 and 4 1/4. Now rotate, and we'll cut at 10, 7 1/2, 5, 2 1/2. That was 2 1/2. Okay, during that whole process, you created a set of 1, 2, 3, 4 that are the same, and one that's smaller. The 4 larger go in pocket B, and the smaller one, D. Okay, now we're going to trim a whole bunch of little pieces. This is for card set C, which has a really cool color blocked look, and these are mats for all our little color blocked pieces. First we'll trim at 10.5, then 8 3/4, 7, 5 1/4, 3.5, and 1 3/4. Okay, so we have this big series here, and then there should be a skinny one at the end. So the pieces that are the same, pocket C, and then that little shorty, D. Then we have this narrow strip. We'll cut this one at 9 3/4 and 7.5. It's going to leave you with this longer strip. That's actually a scrap for pocket D, and then 2 more pieces for C. Okay, this whole thing will be trimmed into 1.5 inch pieces. So that's 10.5, 9, 7.5, 6, 4.5, 3, and 1.5. They should all be the same, and they're all going to go in pocket C with their friends that are a little bit smaller. Next, we've arrived at the print. No need to worry about grain direction. The paper will never be folded. And this time we'll cut at 11 3/4 and 6.5. Rotate the 6.5. We'll cut at 11.5, 9 3/4, 8, 6 1/4, and 4.5. This larger panel, pocket C, it's going to end up on the inside of the card. Actually, didn't need it. Then you should have 1, 2, 3, 4 that are the same. Also, pocket C and a scrap for D. And then we'll cut some more rectangles here. We'll go at 9, and then 6 3/4, 4.5, and 2 1/4. So here we have 4 that are small, that are the same size, pocket A, and this other large piece in pocket D, believe it or not. Okay, oh, there was a little scrap here. You can pop that in D as well. For this one, we're gonna go 9 3/4, 6 1/4, and 4 1/4. This we get to trim in all the even numbers. So that's 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2. How handy was that? And all of this goes in B. You have the narrow strip here. We're going to cut that at 8.5 and 4 1/4. 2 4 1/4 inch pieces that match pocket B with their friends, and this is a scrap for D. This we're going to trim on numbers divisible by 3. So we'll start at 9, 6, and 3. All of this pocket A. Lastly, we'll trim at 7. This goes in pocket C, and this one in D, the smaller of the two in D. Wow, we're getting there. We are getting there. Now we have our Cutaparts. Our first one has the guitars on the edge. And if you look carefully again at the printing on the outside, it says remove paper outside of corner. So everything beyond that tip of that little plus sign has to be removed. You'll be cutting through the guitars. Don't worry about that. And then just rotate around. When you make your second rotation, you'll get a better feel at the bottom. You can't really see it on the screen here, but at this bottom corner, you can see where the blade lands a little bit more clearly and make sure it lines up nicely with the line. And then I'll just keep going around. By this time, you should end up with a nice 12 by 12 dispose of those little scraps and return to the little guitar border on the right. And we'll cut at 11 1/2, 8 1/4, and basically you're cutting between all this artwork, and 4 1/4. Rotate. Make sure that the words Buenas noches are on the right here, and we'll cut at 10 1/2, 9, 6, and 3. Gather the 3 rather, that are the same size going in pocket C. Then you have 2 little sentiments here for B. Next, we'll trim this at 9, 6 3/4, and yes, you're going through the guitar, 4 1/2, 2 1/4, once again going through the guitar. And when you're done trimming it, it looks pretty cool if you ask me. So I'm going to take the 4 that are the same, pocket B, and this last guy in C. Okay, pick up this strip here. We'll go 11, 8 1/4, 5 1/2, 2 3/4. The 4 that are the same, pocket A. This guy, I don't even know if I used it. I don't know. Let's put it in A once. Maybe we can use it on the inside of one of those. And then this goes in D. You can use it if you like on the inside of something. And here we've arrived at our last cut apart. Once again, follow those guidelines to remove that outside perimeter so that you have a nice 12 by 12. All right, I've got some fun numbers for you on this one. Our first is at 11 1/2. And then 10 5/8. So I'll get my little scissors out here again. So 10 5/8 is halfway between 10 1/2 and 10 3/4. That little guy, the medium-sized line between these two, that's 10 5/8. So let's find that. And if you look, it should be right on the edge of the artwork here. Then 7 1/4 and 5 1/4. We'll rotate and make sure the guitars are up here on the right. 10 1/2, 9, 6 3/4, 4 1/2, 2 1/4. 1, 2, 3, 4. They should be the same going in pocket A. And then you've got these 2 here that are the same. We're going to stack and trim them at the same time at 4 1/4. Both of these in pocket B. And these little guys, you can put them in pocket A. Okay, now make sure you pop this in, I guess, with the blue on the right. That way we can both be doing this together. So 10 1/2, 9, 7 1/2, 6, 4 1/2, 3, 1 1/2. So those were all the same size, going in pocket C with their friends. They're going to meet up later. Okay. Oh, we are getting there. Let's go with 10. Now this is with the large guitar here on the right. We'll go at 10. Then these are going to be 1 1/4 inch pieces. So that's 8 3/4, 7 1/2, going through the guitar, 6 1/4, 5, 3 3/4, 2 1/2, 1 1/4. Now this one you get to be this small. Just make sure you stabilize on the clear bar and the measurement will work just fine. Okay, this one's going to stand out. All these that are the same, pocket C. Let's put this one in pocket A. Now here, we're gonna trim horizontally at 10 1/4, 8 1/2, 7, and 5 1/2. You can just put these in pocket D, and then these other little sentiments go in pocket A. This last strip, D again. And now we have all of the trimming finished for all of our layouts. I'm going to swap this trimmer out for a score pal. Now all these pieces that I set aside are still in that same order, and rather than use the plastic bone folder that is included with the score pal, I use a metal tipped stylus. We do have a set of these stylus tools in our store, and you get 3 of them. One of them has a wooden end rather than a metal end, and that's the ball size that I like for scoring on this, in case you're curious about what I'm doing here. Okay, so now I'm going to look for a piece of paper that measures 4 1/2 by 8 1/2, and I'll score horizontally at 6 1/4. Take the next one, it should be lime, 6 1/4. The next one at 6 1/4, and this last one at 6 1/4. Take all of these together and place in pocket B. Next we have these smaller pieces, and they're not quite square, right? This measures 3 3/4, this is 4 1/4. So just make sure they're in there horizontally so that the 4 1/4 is on the top. And we'll score at 3 1/4. It's gonna make a 1-inch flap. This you'll want to score, I mean, if you can find a right or a wrong side, it's very subtle if there is. 3 1/4. I score on the right side. 3 1/4 and 3 1/4. All of these go in pocket A. Next, we'll score the next pile. This is 6 3/4 by 5 1/2. Make sure it's in the score pile horizontally, so the 6 3/4 mark, and score at 4 1/4. Next one should be red, 4 1/4, gold at 4 1/4, and red at 4 1/4. Pocket A. Lastly, make sure the 10-inch side is at the top edge of your score pal, and I'm scoring at 5. So we're just scoring these right in half for a nice single fold, super easy card. Scoring at 5. All of this goes in pocket C. Let's take out our score pal, and I'm just gonna get a cutting mat. All this does is give me a blue background so you're not looking at a white table for everything, and naturally we'll take everything out of pocket A so we can get started on our first set of cards. And our format will kind of be the same all the way through. We'll distribute the pieces for all 4 and then make one card together. You'll want to turn to page 3 in your instructions where we can look at these images here at the bottom. The first thing I usually do is just sort the pieces, and then we'll distribute our card bases. So we'll start out with a gold card base, and then a red, and then the other gold and the other red. Now you do have these smaller panels. We're going to distribute them as well. These are the ones you scored. Let's add those with the matching color. Now we have a nesting panel. For the first card, we'll use red, then green, blue, and yellow. Then you're going to have some colored panels that are smaller. Let's do blue and blue, green and green. You'll also have some printed panels that are smaller, 1, 2, 3, 4, and some printed panels that are narrow, 1, 2, 3, 4. See how easy this is? You're just dealing it out. Everything's prepped and ready to go. Okay, now we're gonna find the blue panel that says "You're amazing," and then the black one that says "You're amazing," the gold panel that says "Happy Birthday," and the black panel that says "Happy Birthday." How about this cool guitar, and then the rose that's black, another guitar, and the rose that is teal. We can add this golden guitar to the first card and the black guitar to our third card. It doesn't really matter, wherever you think it fits. And then we have I Couldn't Wait for a Special Occasion and Fiesta, like there's no mañana. Then you have this cute little guitar going to cards 1 and 2. From your goodies, give each one of these cards a marquee-shaped tag. These are going to end up fitting into our A2 envelope. So what we'll do now is slide in the contents of each pile, except the first pile, into an envelope. And that way, when you go back, you'll pair up your sample with all the other parts and pieces that go with each card, and that'll make your assembly so fun and easy, and you don't have to think very hard, which I have to admit is pretty nice. So this one will go into my third envelope here. So all of these are ready to go, and let's make this one together. And this card assembles very, very easily. I'm going to begin just by prepping a little bit of ribbon so we don't have to worry about doing that later. And I'm going to take this guitar panel here and my taffeta edge red ribbon. So I'm just going to stretch it across so it goes past the edges on each side and trim 2 pieces like that. Then take some tape. I keep my tape in a desktop dispenser like this. Works pretty nice. And just fold one of the pieces of the ribbon in half. And I'm going to try to put the fold of the ribbon at the center of the bottom of the guitar. And flip it over and secure those ends at the back with some tape. Take the other piece, and the ribbon will want to bend in a certain direction. I always check the ribbon grain before I thread it through the loop that I made with the first piece of ribbon. And then fold it in half, support from the left edge and give it a little tug. It's a great way to add a ribbon to a card without adding a ton of dimension. I don't like having knots in my ribbon if I can help it, because then I worry less about the card making it through the post office without extra postage required. Okay, so this is prepped. That's nice. That was easy. Let's do some other prep. We've got our card bases here, and you'll find the score line. Make sure you're looking at the raised side of the score, not the indentation. Then just fold to bury the bump of that score line on the inside of your fold. And you can use a bone folder if you would like to burnish that. And you can do the same on this other one. You get that raised area, bury the bump of the score line. Now this is the part you have to remember to do. So I've got my card base. This is the larger one. And you want to have your fold, your little flap on the left. Then you take the flap of the other piece that is scored and you can center it up on the panel. Okay, so now it's centered and it's going to come from the right. Flip that over. And what I do is just put some glue on the flap and then paste it down and then put glue on the whole panel. This is my ATG gun. And I'm going to nest it onto the card base. I'm centering it on the inside of the card so that the flap is on the right here and the long flap is on the left, and then those flaps kind of overlap. Okay. Next, if you would like, you can take the printed panel that's long and narrow and place that on the outside of your card base. And then there's another flap covering that has the sentiment for the inside of the card. So that's going to be You're Amazing. On the inside on this edge, we'll add our print, just to give it a little decor. And we can even add our piece with the guitar. This was a bonus piece. I'm going to place it right centered so that it's covered when it's closed. You don't want it up or bottom, okay? Now, we're getting there to the finals here. I'm going to add the blue panel to the card. Next, I want to make a sandwich with this tag. So if I close the card, and I want to make sure that this piece doesn't land past the the opening here. I don't want to be able to see that. I think the way I did it was I put adhesive on the back of my guitar, and you can even use the lines on your cutting mat to make sure everything stays level. And I'm just going to cover that hole in the tag by pressing down onto the adhesive, and then I'll add more to the back and center it onto my mat. Oh, that looks so good. To me, I think this looks really nice if you take a corner chomper. I'm using the 1/4 inch setting, and then you make sure you open those little wings, feed it into the top corner like that, the other top corner, and now I have something I can attach that looks pretty nice. I like the square edges on the bottom, just gives it a really nice look. If you want, you can ink the edges, but I don't think it needs it. So I'm just going to go this way. I'll take a sheet of my self-adhesive foam circles. I like to cut them in half, and I'll add them to the corners of my sentiment here. All right, then I'm going to remove the backing with the tabs, which is super handy. And I'll add this right so that it ends sort of near the tag. Now, if you just have a minute or two, it doesn't take long at all. I liked this cute little guitar. This was something that didn't really have an assignment. And once you have the guitar all trimmed out, you can put a little adhesive on the back, and you can scoot him so the fretboard is kind of peeking out there. That is so adorable. I love it. So let's take a look at all my finished cards from this set. This is the first one that we did together. Looks exactly the same. Here's the next one. Again, I used the red ribbon here. This all the same tricks. Here's another one, a fiesta like there's no mañana, and I switched to the lime ribbon for some nice contrast. And here is the other one. I added the second guitar, I guess, to this card. And this on the inside. How sweet was that? That is set A, super easy to put together. Hope you like this style. It's definitely one I like to repeat for sure. It's a great structure. Next, I'm moving on to set B, so I'll empty the pocket and organize all the pieces according to size. Let's begin with a blue card and then a green, another green. Let me make sure you can see all this, and a blue. Now, each one of these is going to have a little panel of a color, and it needs to be the same as the card base. So blue, green, green, blue. Each one will get a black panel. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each card will get 2 printed panels. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Then we have our sentiments. I don't always drink water, but when I do, it's coffee. How about today is the perfect day to be happy, and match that with celebrate. If you stumble, make it part of the dance. Thinking of you. I get jealous when it's bedtime in other countries. Buenas noches. Good night. Okay, so same drill. I'll take one of these A6 envelopes. This is the medium size envelope. And we can load the contents of this card into that envelope. Here's card 3. And card 2. Card 1 we will put together. First thing we'll do is the easy part. Just go ahead and fold. Make sure you bury the bump of the score line on the inside of the fold. And let's go ahead and nest a print onto this top flap of your card. And I'm going to go ahead and put adhesive on the other print as well. We have 2 strips of print the same size. So this is going to go right on this top flap. And then this one will be placed on the other flap of the same color. A simple way to incorporate ribbon is just to add a little loop of it. So I'm going to take this black metallic ribbon and cut off a little strip, fold the strip in half, and I'm going to tape this to the top center of my sentiment. I like to make sure the edges are uneven so I can just tape it down and it will hold okay. And then after the ribbon's attached, I'm going to come in with my ATG and center this sentiment onto the panel. Now, we're going to use this piece to hinge the bottom panel to the top flap. I found a nice easy way to do this, to figure out how to place it very, very easily. So to isolate the bottom hinge and grab your grid ruler and find the 0 center. So here's my 0 center, and this is 4 to 0, 0 to 4. This line right through the middle of the ruler is at 1 inch, okay? I'm going to take that line and match it up with the bottom edge of my blue panel, and I'm going to make sure that the reading on the left side of my ruler is at 2 1/4, and the reading on the right side of the ruler is at 2 1/4. So now I'm centered, and I'm 1 inch from the bottom edge of the panel. Next, I'll take my hinge, and I'm going to do this from the bottom edge, making sure that it's not the one with the ribbon on the top, okay? So I have adhesive just on the bottom. And all I need to do is center this. So my reading on the left is 1 1/4 and my right is 1 1/4. I know this is perfectly centered. Cool, right? It looks like a little upside down T or an I missing the top. I have no adhesive going past the edge of my little flap here. Now, basically what I'll do is line up the bottom edges of the card and have adhesive just in the back of this part and attach it. How slick is that? And why didn't I think of this before? Oh, Tricia, I was learning, I was growing, I was thinking. So now I've got that level, boom, stick it down, and it's perfectly centered and perfectly attached. I even have a 1 inch reveal at the top, a 1 inch at the bottom. It's all been calculated for you. And the last piece is going to be added right into that opening. So I have found the best way to do that is just to visually center it while the card is closed. Just bring it through and line it up nice and straight. You're looking at this edge. You're looking at the bottom. Nice. Isn't that just the sweetest card ever? Now, we also found the sweetest little banner stickers ever, and I'm going to trim off a 3 banner section. And these are self-adhesive, so once you find the backing layer, peel it off. And I'm going to start it kind of at the edge of this panel here and draping its way down to the black panel there. This card makes me so happy. It's a wonderful little structure. Again, very repeatable. One of my favorites, super easy, and it's clever because you can get a lot out of one sheet of paper to make this card, but that gap makes a lot of things possible. Okay, so that was the one we made together. I repeated the structure the same way with the ribbon. And then you'll notice that the guitar image is on the left here, so I put the banners on the right. This one has the celebrate, very, very simple, thinking of you. You could add some of the paper from Pocket D to add interest to the insides of these cards. I didn't do that. They're all just very quick and easy, and that was sort of my goal this month, and there's nothing wrong with that. All right, I'm going to set this aside, empty the contents of Pocket C, and sort everything by size. Now that I have everything sorted, I'm going to fold these in half just so that they're a little smaller to work with in our space. And again, just being aware of the location of the raised bump of the fold, make sure, of the score line rather, make sure that that bump goes on the inside of your card base. And I like to go ahead and burnish those with my bone folder to make a nice crisp fold. If you don't have a bone folder, it's not, and you enjoy making cards, it's not a bad investment. It's something they'll last years and years, and you only have to buy it once usually. I've been using this one for probably at least 15 years. And we do carry a couple of different styles. Okay, now we're gonna take the green vertical, a blue horizontal, a red horizontal, and a gold vertical. I did choose to install a printed panel on the inside of this card. So that one single lone larger print goes there. And you're also going to add a blue panel, gold, and then the larger green and the red. Now there's also one printed panel in the pocket that's kind of large. You can put that on that one. So that'll go on the inside of this other card. And maybe to avoid confusion, I'm just gonna go ahead and place those prints inside so we don't get confused. Next, you should find a panel that's long and skinny that is gold. It's gonna go here, then red, then blue, and then green. So as you can see, we're just distributing color, and now we get to distribute print. And each one of these cards receives 2 longer, skinnier black mats. So 2 per card. And then each one receives 2 smaller black mats, 2 per card. Okay, then we can distribute these small sentiments if you want. We got hola. And I'm gonna put this blue flower down over here and the gold flower here. We've got a top portion of a guitar with blue, a bottom portion with black. We've got a rose with what's shaken, and then a plain blue panel. Here we have the full guitar with blue. I'm just going in the order that they landed. Maybe that'll be easier for you as well. This concho set is here in the lower. I think those are called charros on the traditional mariachi costume. Here they have one in the gold, and then sort of a blue swirl. Here we'll add what's shaken on the right, and then the split guitar left and right. And that should give me something for everyone. Now for our inners, we're gonna put Hope All Is Well With You on this one. Thought of You Today and Smiled here. This one gets Thought of You Today and Smiled, and here we have Hope All Is Well With You. Finally, we can take these pieces for card 4, put them into one of those A7 envelopes. An A7 is what holds a 5 by 7 inch card. So I love having the envelopes in our kits every month because you don't have to go hunting down for the right size envelope. And now here we are with our first card. We're going to make together, the rest go together the same exact way with just minor variations. I'll begin by nesting the printed strip onto the colored strip here. And then I'm going to use my grid ruler again to help me stay level. And I'm looking to attach this about 1/4 of an inch from the edge of this blue card panel. And so 1/4 of an inch on the ruler is 2 cubes. So I have it level at 2 cubes from the edge. And I will rest the panel against the ruler. And once I have it level, I'll just drop it down, and now I know that everything is secure. Next, I will nest all of these little sentiments onto their black mates here. So just add adhesive to all 4 of them at the same time. It's a nice time saver. And just center those up. And now I have this blue section. I thought it would be a great spot on which to put some sequins that we have, those sunburst sequins. I'm going to use the 0 center of my ruler here to pierce a hole at 0 and then 1 on each side. Now I happen to have a stash of miscellaneous embellishments. I'm going to take some black brads out of that stash and attach the sequins. Now if you don't have black brads, just use bookbinding glue, or you can skip this, and then I'll just bring the brad through the center hole of the sunburst sequin and then just split it on the back of this panel. And repeat to attach the remaining 2 sequins. To pierce, I just used a awl, and or a paper piercing tool. You can even use a push pin, and then an old mini mouse pad. Works great. At this point, all I need to do is attach these, and I'm going to do it, it's the same distance from the edge here, at 1/4 of an inch from the edge, and just make sure you're centered left to right. I'm at 3 3/8 on each side. I'm not sure how comfortable you are with a grid ruler. Oh, I did tie some ribbon onto this, and I think what I did was, this was kind of funny. It was a different trick. I was going to do the little loop, but I got lazy. So I just trimmed 2 pieces of ribbon, and I made a little knot in the center with the 2 pieces. I just tied them both together at the same time. Like that. And then I tied this. You can even spread these out a little bit if you want, the tails, before you wrap around to the back. And secure with some adhesive or some tape or washi tape. I use cellophane tape again because I just keep it handy, right? Okay, so this is going to be my centerpiece that I attach first, about 1/4 of an inch from the edge again, and then I'll center this. So I'm going to find, oh, looks like 1 1/8. It's hard with that little ribbon attached. Now these other 2 pieces can be attached next door. So I'm just kind of working horizontally, even though this is going to be a vertical card, just because it's comfortable for me. So I will separate these by 1/8 of an inch. And this is why we had to trim at those funky 1/8 inch measurements, just to make this all work out with a nice even spacing and alignment on the other edge. Without those 1/8 inch measurements, it would look a little weird. So I'm just putting you through the paces so you can be a gifted card maker that makes things look beautiful. How nice is that? Ready to attach to my main card base. Center that up. Now, when we open this card, you've got the panel here, and it should be to scale for centering. From pocket D, however, I just want to point out that maybe if you got this red little strip here and trim it to 6 1/2, I can add a little adhesive to that, and it should be the same height as this panel. And again, since I'm attaching a narrow strip, I like to use my ruler to make sure everything is on the level. And then my sentiment. Oh, hope all is well with you. Hola, hope all is well with you. Love that. Here is the finished sample, which looks exactly the same. And I'll show you the remaining cards in the set. Now this one, 3 randomly attached sunbursts. And I first attached all the other pieces and added the ribbon before I attached this one, obviously. This is just crisscross ribbon wrapped around and trimmed as you see. Then I added the pierced holes after this was on the yellow panel, but before I nested it onto the card base. On the inside, check it out, I used the 1/8 inch scrap of black, and doesn't that look beautiful? So to attach that, just place the 2x7 or whatever it is, 2.5x7 on the inside of the card. Once that's adhered, take the tip of your bookbinding glue applicator and run it along there and add the strip and then trim it off to size. I know that I had you put this in pocket D, so grab that scrap if you'd like to use it. And here I just use some of those scrap borders again, resourcing from pocket D to make all this stuff work out. I just want to mention you'll have a red and a gold panel left over. Those happen to fit perfectly behind the sentiments on these 2 cards. So if you want to use these, you absolutely can use them on the inside of card 3 and 4 in set C. Thank you so much for joining me on this mariachi card making journey. I hope you enjoyed these cards and have lots of friends and loved ones you can send them to along the way. If you're not already a member of the Club Scrap card kit option, be sure you check it out with a subscription. We will help you every month in a video just like this create a dozen cards, usually 4 each of 3 different styles, in entirely new structures that you can learn and improve upon and repeat again in the future with papers from your stash. Give it a whirl, and I will see you next time in class.